This episode is posting just after Earth Day, so that inspired me on today's topic. We all know there's a whole debate about climate change, but regardless of who's right and to what degree, the topic ignores, maybe even intentionally buries, something much more immediate and incredibly dangerous to us all. So today we're going to talk about what that is and how it relates to your health, your business, and your life overall. This is the Heart Body Business Podcast. Inspiration, tips, and tools for entrepreneurs seeking a more fulfilling type of success. One that stems from exploring and expressing their true passion and purpose and finding healthy ways to do so. All coupled with insights and action items to get a business moving in the right direction. I'm Steve, your host, and I invite you to learn more at heartbodybusiness.com. The climate debate's been going on for decades. I'm not here to say who's right, although admittedly, climate alarmists until now have been the world's worst predictors of the future. To me, though, the topic is almost like a sleight of hand. Since the rise of industry and chemistry, we've been poisoning our environment, and this has a massive impact on our health, our businesses, and our lives overall. As just an example, when they first started spraying crops in the US in the 1800s, polio, almost unheard of until that point, erupted onto the scene. This is an entire topic unto itself, and I won't go down that road here, but it's an important piece to the puzzle for anyone exploring the topic of viruses versus the body's terrain or its internal environment. Meanwhile, they're intentionally spraying chemicals into our skies today to combat climate change in what is yet another mass experiment no one has consented to. And no, so-called chemtrails are not just conspiracy theories when they're publicly disclosing that this is happening. Of course, there are toxins in the air and water from factories. They continue spraying and are now genetically modifying our crops. They genetically modify animals, including those that are part of the food supply. And let's not forget all the other chemicals and poisons that are part of the Frankenstein foods found throughout our grocery stores. Yes, life expectancy has generally increased around the world over the last 2 decades, but so have serious health problems. In the USA, for adults 20 and over, 30.5% were considered obese in 2000, and 42.4% were by 2018. That's a 39% increase. Meanwhile, morbid obesity grew from 4.7% to 9.2% in the same period, a 96% increase. In the 60s, around 4% of children were considered obese. Today, around 20% are. This is not just because of an older population. According to a report in 2023, the U.S. population aged 50 years and older will increase by 61% by 2050. But in that same age group over 50, the number of people with at least one chronic disease will increase by about 100%. So by comparison, 24% more will have at least one chronic disease than would be expected today. We were supposed to have flooded cities by now, according to climate alarmists. But while they're focused on what they think will happen decades from now, we're already decades into rampant problems with our health due to so many other issues with our environment. Where's the outcry on this? Why aren't the media and students on college campuses freaking out about this and demanding change? Why aren't we calling for taxes and penalties against those responsible? Because a healthy world is not what they're after. A healthy you is not what they're after. But this doesn't mean you cannot take charge of everything possible at your own level. The second part of heart-body business is body. We need to care for the vehicle that lets us express our inner purpose into the world through our businesses and through our daily lives and relationships. Your environment, what does that look like? It is everything you interact with, and not just biochemical in nature, not just the things you eat and drink, not just the air you breathe. Those are important, but so are the words we absorb and the electromagnetic fields of nature, of technology, and even of other people. Our environment even involves how our bodies interact with our surroundings. For instance, by taking time for sleep and movement and exercise. Our reliance on computers and TVs has certainly played a role in the rise of obesity. So here are some things to consider if you want to start taking control. When it comes to food and beverages, the less processed, the better. Reduce sugar intake. Stick with real ingredients. Avoid artificial colors, sweeteners, fats, and so on. Note that I said artificial. I'm not saying to avoid fats, but artificial fats. We can dive deep into arguments about other foods, even natural foods, but experts debate these topics, and to be honest, I think that different people respond differently to various foods. So this gets us into more subtle topics of what your body responds well to. This can even change over time. So my point here is that most of us can see big progress by addressing the obvious stuff I've just mentioned: sugar, artificial food, and the like. Set timers throughout the day as reminders to get up and move, stretch, exercise, even if it's just a little something. Work to move and strengthen your body a little more and a little more over time. Build up to it at a sustainable pace so that this becomes normal for you. Did you ever think about the fact that you can stretch and move and exercise while watching TV, so there's literally no excuse about time? Did you know that you can build your strength even without weights? Not just push-ups and sit-ups, but through squats and calf raises, and even tightening your muscles as you do curls without holding anything. The fact is, research has shown we can build our muscles by thinking about them growing. The more real you can make this through actual movement and actually using them, the better you'll do. But you do have time and you do have the ability. You might not be able to control the air you breathe outside, but you can make sure you keep clean filters in your heating and cooling system. You can use air purifiers in your home. You might not be able to control how we maintain our public water supply, but you can use water purifiers. And understand that a charcoal filter may help, but that alone does not remove all the things you might not want to be drinking. You might not be able to control where they're setting up cell phone towers or power transmission lines, but you may be able to control how close you live to these. And you can certainly do things like shutting off your Wi-Fi at night or making sure you're not sleeping next to any electronic devices. You see, there are collective choices that you do not fully control, but you can still control a lot of things about your environment. How you store your food and how you cook it. Each choice may have its pros and cons, and it's up to you to weigh the impacts of your choices or give your power away to the collective mind that told you how to live. Speaking of which, if you use it, social media is part of your environment. What words and ideas are you exposing yourself to? The more you hear them, especially if you respect the sources, the more they alter your worldview and your choices. Are you exposing yourself to healthy people and healthy ideas? Are you challenging ideas by researching and thinking for yourself, or are you letting others steer your thoughts and emotions? What about the people you surround yourself with offline? Are they supportive? Are they optimistic? Do they look for problems or for solutions? You might not have immediate choices about who you're around, in the workplace, for instance, or even at home. But you probably have a certain level of choice, whether it's shifting how you interact with someone or choosing to limit exposure to them. Are you empowering yourself with such choices? If you run your own business, you have a lot more choices about who to interact with. Do you hold employees accountable to a certain level of integrity? What about vendors and customers? Are love and respect considered core attributes expected of everyone associated with the business? We are part of both a collective and an individual world. This is the great dichotomy of politics, but it's not actually one or the other, it's both. And our great challenge is in balancing the needs of all with the needs and empowerment of the individual. Some of us have more influence than others over the choices that will affect the collective. Where we can have a positive impact there, we should. But meanwhile, no one should feel that they have no power to change their own lives. We can all make choices to experience better health in order to better express what is inside us, in order to have more success in business, more happiness in our daily lives, to exchange more love in our relationships. The collective shapes how we can experience these things, but individually we determine whether we will experience them, and we choose the specifics of how within the confines of our environment. Everything about the heart-body business philosophy is about how we can live our genuine purpose, especially through business. But we limit ourselves. We limit our purpose if we allow others to fully craft our environment. Today, decide that you will craft your world and decide where you will begin. Plan out the steps you will take over time, moving at a pace you can remain committed to, and begin with your first steps right now. See how this puts you in greater control and how it gives you the strength and the opportunities to bring out your purpose and experience the types of success that truly matter. Till next time, thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe. You can also join our mailing list to get alerts on our latest episodes and other tips, tools, and news. Learn more and sign up at heartbodybusiness.com.